Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County. No matter who you are, no matter where you came from, no matter who you love, you are welcome here this morning. Please rise in body or spirit to sing our opening hymn, Love Will Guide Us. Standing for the lighting of the chalice and the recitation of our covenant. I'd like to invite Liz McDyer forward to light the chalice. The chalice lighting words are from the book Spiritual Literacy by Frederick and Mary Broussat. Fall in love over and over again every day. Love your family, love your neighbors, love your enemies, and yourself. And don't stop with humans. Love animals, plants, stones, even the galaxies. Please join with me as we recite our covenant, enriched by our differences and joined together in the search for meaning. We covenant with ourselves and each other to seek truth in a spirit of love, to strive for justice, and to serve others with a joyful heart. Now is an opportunity to take a few moments to greet one another. Good morning again. My name is Ruth Hendry, and I will serve as your worship associate this morning. I want to welcome our friends who are on Zoom, participating in the service this morning. If you're on Zoom, please remember you can activate closed captioning if that's helpful for you. And if you would like to talk with others after the service, there will be a virtual coffee hour, so just stay logged in to speak with others. If you are attending our service for the first time, we offer an especially warm welcome to you. If you are attending service worship in person, please join us for refreshments outside where it's cool and beautiful. I'm happy to welcome Robin Reichert. She got an early start this morning as she came from Irwina up the Delaware. Robin is a writer, professional storyteller, artist, poet, speaker, and author. Diary of a Man Called Jesus, His Life and Missing Years, a novel, is her most recently published work. She has been asking questions about the missing chapters of Jesus' life since she was a young girl. So Robin will have some copies of her of this book and other books available in the lobby after the service. Inspired by the loving ways of a 4-year-old, Robin takes an unabashed look at love that will have you laughing and leave you with food for thought on ways to bring more love, with a capital L, into your life. As we settle into our time of worship together, please remain seated as we sing hymn 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness. Each Sunday, we gather in community, carrying emotions and experiences of the week. We may be filled with joy or sorrow. We honor those feelings by dropping stones into the bowl of water. Just as the stones are held by water, so are those who drop them held in love by this community. All are invited to join in this ritual. You may file up the aisle by the window, drop your stone, and then return to your seat by the center aisle. All are invited to participate. Those online may enter their joys or sorrows on chat. I dropped a final stone for the joys and sorrows held by those online and for those who were unable to be with us today. And please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life.
Good morning. Do you know the truth of you? The depth and breadth and soul of you? Before the scolding and molding and shaping of you? Your gift is the dreaming, the scheming, the wish of you, the hope, the imagine, and the prayer of you. The part you might think is missing is the hop, the skip, and the carefree of you. The spark of you knows the seed, the bud, and the flower of you. The heart of you sees the promise, the ocean, and the star of you. The spirit of you sings and twirls and dances you. How do you awaken the lost memory of you? Stand in the mirror. Look into your eager eyes of you and wait until you touch the wonder, the awe, and the magic of you. Until you fathom the gold, the silver, and the gem of you. Until you draw out the art, the music, and the flair of you. Until you embrace the love, the peace, and the fire of you.
The work of our congregation takes many forms within our congregation and throughout our community and the world. It is with your generous financial support that the transformative power of love takes shape in our everyday living. We gladly receive your generous donations through the text to give function on your smartphone. You can see the text on the number provided on the screen. And also there are boxes in the back of the sanctuary where folks can leave checks and cash. Thank you for your generosity.
Good morning again. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, and I don't know if Joe Miller is here, but I wanted to thank him for the original invitation, and to Ruth, who has been very thorough in her emails to me, helping organize everything. So I just wanted to start by inviting you, if there's any parts of you that you have left out there or this morning or just somewhere else other than here, to just bring yourself here and feel yourself in your seat and breathe in, I am here, and breathe out anything you have left out there. And breathe in, I am here. And really feel yourself here. Because I'm so happy to be able to have this time with you. My mother loved telling a story. She was normally a pretty quiet person, but her favorite story that she repeated to me over and over again was how she was at a peace conference where she was in a room of people who were fighting about how to have peace. And I loved that story because of my mother's quietness, it was a big thing for her to stand up, raise her hand, and say, "What about love?" And everybody got very quiet. And as the session ended and people were filing out of the room, the Russian author who was leading the talk called her over and said, "Tell me about this love." Years later, as a befuddled teenager, I was sitting in my room staring at my corkboard where I had those bubble letters of the time. I had cut them out and I put them on my corkboard, and I was Sitting there staring at those, I had cleared my room of everything having anything to do with childhood. All the whimsy, all the stuffed animals, all the color. And I had this boring room because that was what I thought it meant to be on the threshold of adulthood. And I wondered, what is peace? What is love? And still years later, as an adult, a friend said, I love my neighbor. Oh, I don't love my neighbor. You know what I mean? I love my neighbor. And I said, I know what you mean. I'm a lover too. You don't have to explain. And years later, another friend said, there's different kinds of love, and we need to be careful who we love. And the world teaches us that that's the way it is. But that's not how we come into the world. I love people in a different way than I love chocolate. And I really love chocolate. I'm going to just present a book that was shared with me by my father. And sadly, I didn't get to talk about it with him because I didn't read it until he was gone. But it was just like he was speaking to me. It's called Rising in Love by Alan Cohen. If you've not read it, I highly recommend it. Don't wait like I did. But the author proposes that we can each love everybody that we cross paths with. That's a tall order. How do we do it? I will say that the book brought me closer to seeing myself in everybody that I meet. The good and the bad. For better, for worse. Pavritha Mehta, the founder of Service Space, tells how a young man was being held at knife point. The guy wanted his wallet and he handed it over. But he didn't just let the man run away. He said, "You look cold. Here, take my coat." And the man looked at him like he was crazy. But he took the coat. And the young man, he didn't let it end there. He said, "Have you had dinner yet?" And he invited him to have a meal. And after the meal was coming to its end, he said, "You know, I'd really like to pay for your meal, but you have my wallet." And the man took the wallet out of his pocket and pushed it across the table. And then the young man said, "Can I have the knife too?" And the robber gave him the knife. I don't know what happened after that, but perhaps that was love. Maybe that was peace. I picked up a Chicken Soup for the Soul book, and I read how Lynn Twist, who is an author and humanitarian, was just coming out of one of her talks about her humanitarian work in other countries. And she hopped into a cab and quickly discovered, as the man drove pretty recklessly, that she was with a very angry African-American man. Not long after she got in the cab, the man was cut off by a Sikh driver. And he was very upset, got out of the car, started banging on the hood of the car, pulled out a knife, it wasn't looking good. And Lynn was in traffic. She was frozen in place. She thought, I've been doing all this work in Africa and Bangladesh and all these places. Can I walk my talk in this situation? Well, the man he didn't calm down. He got back in the car because the light changed. And she said, you better calm down, which made him angrier. And he drove more recklessly until he reached her stop-off place. And he screamed out the fare. And she started handing over the money, but she said, I don't have anything else to do. Would you like to talk? And the man just was startled and looked at her like she'd lost her marbles. But in no time, she was in the front seat. They were holding hands, and he was pouring out a terrible story of abuse and brutality. And by the end of that time together, they hugged and respectfully said goodbye. I believe that was love. Could each of us be that strong, that brave? Could we let go of fear long enough to let love come into the situation? My naked truth is that I was faced with unscrupulous contractors that drove my partner, Scott, and I nearly to the edge of sanity. The experience made me feel like I had failed somehow because I was kind and understanding and compassionate and trying to deal with these people. And then I wondered if my compassion and love for others was exceeding my compassion and love for myself. And then certain legal boundaries were crossed. I consulted some spiritual elders that I'm in contact with regularly, and they said, you have been seriously harmed and you need to do something about it. Compassion comes into my prayers for those contractors because I know there was some deep hurt there. And my heart informs me that whatever they did with us and beyond that, whatever penalties came to them, they brought it on themselves. That's the balance. We may never be in such devastating or frightening circumstances as the things that I've just talked about, but there will always be people in our lives who challenge us to love them. It's not a Hallmark kind of love, nor does it mean we will be in close contact with everyone we meet. It means that we can choose to look beyond appearances to the heart of the person who stands before us. Though they may be champions of irritating behavior, we look deeply to allow ourselves to see the innocence and beauty beyond an abrasive personality that disguises deep wounds. We have the capacity to love, open our hearts wide, and gather enough strength to be kind, compassionate, and caring, even when we feel the least like doing so. We also have a responsibility to discern when the balance tips and we have abandoned compassion and love for ourselves. Thankfully, here we go with the juicy part. I once had the honor to meet a genuine master of love and peace. Like many who follow a teacher, I keep his picture nearby to remind me of his great wisdom. My master was the ultimate free spirit, the original free bird, if you will. We spent many enriching hours together, and I knew there was something special about him from the very beginning. I would have paid money to learn from this guy, but I didn't have to. From the moment of our first meeting, he became my official guru. He could stop an argument in its tracks with a simple no. No. We never actually discussed love or peace, but I'm certain he was an expert. Every time we met, when he saw me, his face brightened like the sun, and he threw his arms around me. And then he chanted and invited me to accompany him in his special welcome dance. He turned in circles and spun around me. He kissed my cheek or my hand with exuberance, and then he shouted, "I love you," for the whole world to hear. I knew I was loved, and he was not the least bit shy about showing it. He was completely, unabashedly, wonderfully present. On one occasion, he had a new way of showing his love. He said, "Robin, I want you to see me naked." A little while later, he disappeared, and when he reappeared again before me, he was gloriously naked. Not a stitch. He said, "Robin, I'm naked." I said, "Yes, you are." And I felt the color in my cheeks, and me and his mom were just laughing. I'm sure you might have thought for a bit that I was in some kind of a weird cult, but I assure you, my guru was a 4.5-year-old glorious little child, very enlightened. Whenever his mother invited me to dinner, he always showed me what it means to be in love, to be peace, to be naked. And what I mean by that is he didn't wear masks and never hid behind the well-thought-out disguise that we adults call persona. There was never a thought about putting away parts of himself the way I did when I was a messed up teenager and I thought being an adult meant I had to just have everything dry and dull. My guru felt no need to swaddle his heart in thick layers of ace bandages and duct tape. He hadn't yet suffered rejection or grief, no unfortunate life experience that would cause him to seek years of therapy to unravel the wrappings of defense and protection, the things that keep us from what we most need and want. His heartfelt expression and the joy behind it were as pure as the clearest crystal, the bluest ocean, the whitest snow. He was so comfortable with his own feelings, there was no concern about whether they were right or acceptable. His heart was just out there, naked, for all to see and enjoy. Somehow in the time I had with that little guy, I hope that he will remember my responses to him that will help him hold on to his exuberance the way he helped resurrect mine. Maybe as he has grown and experienced life memories of our time together will remind him that it's not worth binding up our hearts after the world has its way with us. As the poet Rumi says, I don't want learning or dignity or respectability. I want this music and this dawn and the warmth of your cheek against mine. Thankfully, there are many of these masters walking the planet. So my wish for you is that you will meet and spend as much time as you can with one or more of these amazing beings. On this day and all days, in the words of my greatest teacher, I want you to see each other naked, to be divinely your most vivid self. I want you to know how happy I am that we've had this time together. How I feel bright like the sun to see you all here on this beautiful summer day when you could easily be somewhere else. Again, Rumi says it well. I was sleeping and being comforted by a cool breeze when suddenly a gray dove from a thicket sang and sobbed with longing and reminded me of my own passion. I had been away from my own soul so long, so late sleeping, but that dove's crying woke me and made me cry. Praise to all early waking grievers. Come to this street with only your sweet fragrance. Don't walk into this river wearing a robe. Paths go from here to there, but don't arrive from somewhere. It's time now to live naked. Thank you for listening. I invite you now to join me in singing the closing hymn, number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Yes to love. That is our task for the day. I want to thank our speaker, Robin. Hi, Robin. I want to thank Robin for her moving and enriching talk with us this morning. I also want to thank our AV team, Marilyn Huff, Patty Hove, and Carl Thompson, our hospitality team members, Mark Bernstein and Sharon Rubo, and of course, Joy for her music and for supporting our worship experience virtually and here in the sanctuary. I want to highlight the flowers this morning, which were donated by Judy Cook in memory and honor of her husband, Doug Cook, whose memorial service was yesterday. Please consider attending the service next week, which will feature our very own Mark Bernstein, who will explore the spiritual journey that we take as Unitarian Universalists that can lead us to a better understanding of who we are. And more importantly, it may help us to see with greater clarity who we are not. So please rise in body or spirit for our benediction. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. And for those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Blessed be. This concludes our service this morning. Please join us outside on this gorgeous day for refreshments and conversation.